Walk into the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City and look up. You'll see one of the most iconic images in human history. An old man with a flowing white beard, reaching out his finger to spark life into Adam. Now fly across the Mediterranean to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. The experience is radically different. You see geometry, light, sweeping, intricate calligraphy spiraling toward infinity, but you never ever see a face. Culturally, we're trained to think this is just artistic preference, that the West likes portraits and the East prefers patterns. But here's the twist that changes everything. Despite the Renaissance art covering church ceilings today, what if the foundational text governing the Sistine Chapel actually agrees with the architecture of the mosque? What if both the Bible and the Quran share an identical, non-negotiable, hard limit on depicting the divine? Today we're exploring a concept called Divine Transcendence, the shared theological conviction that the Creator is so fundamentally distinct from creation that any attempt to draw, sculpt, or even mentally visualize Him isn't just inaccurate. It's an insult to reality itself. It's trying to fit the ocean into a coffee cup. Culture constantly tries to domesticate God, turn Him into a cosmic grandfather or distant force. But the scriptures of both faiths argue for something far more terrifyingly vast. They insist that if you can photograph it, if you can fully comprehend it, it categorically isn't God. We're about to walk through 5 specific ways these ancient texts systematically dismantle our attempts to visualize the divine. And we must start where the ink first dried, with the oldest restriction on record, the commandment that arguably started it all. We think of idolatry as an ancient problem, people bowing to golden calves or stone carvings in deserts. We smugly think, well, we're past that now. But the prohibition against images isn't about primitive statue worship. It addresses a far deeper psychological trap, the danger of reducing the Creator to the level of His creatures. Look at Exodus, chapter 20, verse 4, embedded within the 10 Commandments that form the bedrock of Western civilization. The instruction is absolute. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Notice the comprehensive scope. It doesn't say, don't worship statues. It says, don't make them. The text guards against the human compulsion to shrink God into a manageable shape we can control, package, or market. Now watch how the Quran doesn't just echo this rule. It frames it as metaphysical law. Surah Ash-Shura, chapter 42, verse 11 states, "There is nothing like unto Him, and He is the hearing, the seeing." The Arabic phrase "laysa kamithlihi shay" is a logic breaker. It means, if you can imagine it, if you can compare it to anything in physical reality, then by definition it's not God. This matters urgently today because we inhabit a hypervisual culture. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We judge reality by what fits on a screen. But these texts force a paradigm shift. They're screaming that ultimate reality refuses to be content you can consume. By rejecting all images, the divine maintains absolute sovereignty. He refuses to become a mascot for your tribe or decoration for your wall. But this raises an uncomfortable question. If we can't carve His image in stone, can we at least carve an image of Him in our minds? What about the limits of human intelligence itself? We're arrogant about perception. We assume if something exists, we should be able to see it, measure it, stick it under a microscope. We treat our eyes like perfect cameras capturing 100% of reality. Both scriptures argue the problem isn't God's visibility, it's our optical resolution. It's a hardware limitation. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 16 describes God in terms of overwhelming physics, who alone is immortal and who lives in unapproachable light, whom no one has seen or can see. Note that word, unapproachable. The intensity of divine reality is so extreme that human sensory systems literally cannot process it. Like pointing a cheap webcam directly at the sun, the sensor just melts. The Quran in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, Verse 103 defines this cognitive limit with surgical precision. Vision perceives him not, but he perceives all vision, and he is the subtle, the acquainted. The script flips. You don't capture him, he captures you. The observer cannot wrap their lens around the architect of the lens itself. Here's a fact that demolishes assumptions about what's real. According to modern physics, the visible light spectrum, the colors you're seeing on this screen right now, comprises less than 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum. That means over 99% of reality, gamma rays, radio waves, X-rays, is passing through your body at this exact moment, and you're completely blind to it. When ancient texts say God is unseen, they're not claiming he's magical or imaginary. They're saying he exists in the 99% of reality your biological hardware simply isn't built to detect. It reframes atheism not as lack of evidence, but as lack of bandwidth. This creates a theological crisis, though. If we can't see him and can't imagine him, how do we talk about him? How do you maintain relationship with a blank space? Both faiths solved this problem identically. They gave the unknowable a vocabulary of specific titles. If the source code is invisible and our hardware can't process it, we face a devastating problem. How do you love, trust, or pray to something you cannot conceptualize? It's like trying to have a relationship with a differential equation. Too abstract. So both faiths solve this user interface problem the exact same way. They don't give us God's photograph. They give us God's resume. They provide specific handles the human mind can actually grip. Exodus chapter 34, verse 6 captures a pivotal moment. Moses demands to see God's glory. He wants the visual, but God refuses to show his face. Instead, he passes by and declares a catalog of attributes. The Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. Watch what's happening. God replaces visual description with moral description. He's saying, you cannot know what I look like, but you can know how I behave. The Quran systematizes this into formal theology in Surah Al-Araf, chapter 7, verse 180. And to Allah belong the best names, so invoke him by them. Islamic tradition catalogs 99 of these names, like Al-Rahman, the merciful, Al-Malik, the king, as Salam, the peace, Al-Muhaymin, the protector. This distinction is critical for modern believers. While God's essence remains off-limits to imagination, God's attributes are open source. Think of it like computer architecture. You can't interact with raw binary code, the zeros and ones deep in the machine, too complex. So the operating system provides icons. Click Mail, click Browser. These icons let you access the machine's power without understanding the circuitry. The names of God in both scriptures function as icons, the interface allowing finite humans to interact with infinite power without short-circuiting their minds. But there's one final boundary both texts establish, a boundary perhaps hardest to accept. If God has no body and no image, does he have a location? Can we point upward and say, he's there? Both scriptures give a surprisingly complex answer, one that completely revolutionizes how we think about sacred space. Finally, we confront the question of where. If God has no body, no face, cannot be photographed, the human brain instinctively pushes him far away. We point up to the sky. We imagine him enthroned in some distant cosmic boardroom, removed from daily life's grit and chaos. But both scriptures violently reject this distant deity theology. They argue that lacking physical form actually allows God to be everywhere simultaneously. Acts chapter 17, verses 24 and 27 records the Apostle Paul standing in Athens, the ancient hub of philosophy, telling the Greeks they've misunderstood God's geography entirely. The God who made the world does not live in temples built by human hands. He is not far from any one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being. Radical shift. Paul claims God isn't an object in the universe. He's the atmosphere the universe exists within. You don't shout to be heard. You're already immersed in his presence. The Quran in Surah Kaf, chapter 50, verse 16 takes this intimacy and makes it almost biological. And we have already created man and know what his soul whispers to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein. Absorb that proximity. Your jugular vein is inside your neck, the lifeline of your blood. The text claims divine presence is closer to you than your own cardiovascular system. When you synthesize these perspectives, the distant observer concept evaporates. We're left with a reality that's invisible not because it's far away, but because it's too close to see, like an eye trying to observe itself. The absence of imagery forces us to stop searching out there for statues to worship and realize the presence is right here, right now. So we have a God who cannot be sculpted, cannot be imagined, cannot be captured by cameras, and cannot be imprisoned in buildings. To the modern mind, saturated with 4,000 screens and infinite visual content, this might feel hollow, like a void, but let me offer a radically different perspective. Imagine a room crammed with furniture, clutter, noise. That's the human mind stuffed with idols, images of success, power, achievement, self. Both the Bible and Quran demand we clear that room. Strip the walls, remove the statues, not to leave the room empty forever, but because only an empty room can be flooded with light that has no shape. By refusing to reduce the Creator to an image, these faiths preserve his absolute greatness. They ensure we never worship a God we manufactured, and instead stand trembling before the God who manufactured us. The no-image rule isn't restriction, it's invitation into a mystery that never exhausts itself. If you value exploring the source code of the world's greatest traditions without the tribal shouting matches, subscribe now. I'll see you in the next one.